channel. Hope you're all doing really well. So today I thought I would make a video that's very close to my own heart, and it is how to stay on your horse when they spin. So when they kind of spook and spin and do one of those really nice kind of 180s that just kind of throws you for a loop, and you kind of tend to come off stage left or stage right depending on which way they spin. So I went through a very hard time with this with Ruby. Basically, like, when I got her, she'd spook, but you know, be kind of more those kind of spooks where she'd kind of plant to go and then sort of would get over it and we could move on. But I had to, basically she had to have some time off because I was just, work was manic and I had exams to do and blah blah blah, I couldn't fit riding in. So basically she had some time off. I think she had about 6 weeks off, and it was not September just gone, it was September before, so it took a while. It did take a while to fix these issues. But we've been mostly spin free for the last couple of months now, so I do feel like I can kind of make a video on how I rectified it and how I kind of got better at sitting them. So yeah, so the main thing, so basically she had 6 weeks off and I came back and she was just like a different horse. Like, I think I was just unfortunate at the time of the year, they weren't out in the field, so she was inside cooped up, which is like the worst thing for Ruby. She's a horse that really needs her turnout, and she just needs to be kept busy basically. She's very active mind, and it was just like there was nothing I could do. It was just unfortunate the circumstances. But anyway, I came back, I went to ride her, and she just started doing these 180s super quick, whip around, and I would just, every time she did it, I would just come off, I would just flop off. Now luckily, because they were so quick, I'd get the kind of ragdoll effect, as in, like, I wouldn't be bracing because I wouldn't even expect it. Like, sometimes we could be on the way back, she could be super chilled, and then all of a sudden she'd just see something and go and whip around, and I would be on the ground kind of not knowing what even happened. So yeah, so basically it was frustrating because, like, because you kind of think like, oh, why can't I sit it? Like, why am I coming off so easily? Like, it's not even like I'm grappling around and then I'm coming off. Like, the way some other falls you might have, if it's like, I don't know, a buck, or they stumble, or you can lose your balance, but you kind of feel like you're putting up a bit of a fight. Whereas this was just kind of like, I was gone. As soon as she did it, I was just gone. And yeah, but because obviously I wasn't expecting it, I was getting the kind of ragdoll effect, so I never really hurt myself, touch wood, from them. But yeah, it just wasn't ideal, because basically what was happening was she was getting spooked by something, whipping around, I was coming off, and in doing that she was able to get away from it. So basically I was inadvertently reinforcing her not wanting to go near the spooky object or the scary object, which wasn't my fault. I was coming off, like, there's nothing I could do. But yeah, that was kind of, I knew if I didn't, I knew this was something that really needed to be sorted out, because I mean, you can't be falling off nearly every time you ride. Like, it's a recipe for a serious injury. So yeah, so see, these are some of the tips that I put in place, and yeah, I'll go through them now. I will say that, like, if you do kind of feel like it's a dangerous situation, then maybe there's absolutely no shame at all in getting some help. Someone might be a bit more experienced or have had a horse previously that was like this, and they, you know, are just better equipped to deal with it. So like, if you feel like you're kind of in danger or you're out of your depth, absolutely put your hand up and look for help. Like, there's absolutely no shame in it. Like, I used to always kind of feel like, oh, I'm a terrible rider or a terrible horse person if I can't do everything myself, but that's absolutely not the case. It's actually probably it probably makes you a better horse rider or horse person if you can kind of be like, okay, no, I know this is kind of out of my depth, I need help with this. So the first thing I would look at is your position. So I kind of played around with different stirrup lengths because I was kind of wondering if that affects kind of how, well, it does affect how you sit in the saddle, but I was kind of wondering if it would affect how my stickability basically. So for a while I kind of went with really short stirrups, and I kind of thought, like, oh, it kind of gives me a bit more purchase, or you know, I can't actually quite remember what my logic was for the really short stirrups. I guess maybe I thought like my leg won't be swinging around and I'll have a bit more, like I can keep my leg kind of still and on and grip a bit more, I suppose. But actually I have found now that the best way to have your stirrups is just kind of the normal length, like what they recommend. So like from your kind of arm, you can kind of measure from your like armpit to your wrist, or like kind of just at the hitch or at your ankle when your feet are out of them. So that, yeah, so basically like what you want to kind of build up is an independent seat. So I kind of found that actually like with the shorter stirrups, it was nearly like I was sitting on top of her. Obviously I'm sitting on top of her, but like I was sitting on top of her and I was like separate to her. Whereas when you have kind of longer stirrups, it's almost like you're kind of more at one with the horse and you can really feel the movement. So yeah, that kind of worked better for me. Once I kind of think it nearly reassured her as well, because she was I think maybe because she could feel me a bit more and it really felt like I was there rather than I was just kind of bopping around on top. And yeah, like I kind of felt like when she moved suddenly, like I was going with the movement as opposed to me just being on top and then her moving and me kind of getting left behind. So yeah, that was the first thing that really helped me. The second thing is an item that I bought. It was the Acapello Gel Out Seat Saver. Like this honestly is my holy grail equestrian product. I just love it. Like I'm going to get a second one because I've got two saddles, a general purpose and a dressage saddle, and I'd like to have one for both. But it just, like I had a quite slippy, my saddle was quite slippy, and yeah, so like basically I was sliding around, specifically if I didn't have like jods on that had the kind of sticky full seat, I would just kind of be sliding, slipping all over the place, and then obviously if she was to move suddenly or be sharp and spin, I would come off a lot easier. So with the Acapello Gel Out Seat Saver, it's just this kind of grippy like kind of cover, I suppose, that you put over your saddle, and obviously you sit on it, and it's like kind of, I think maybe is it silicone or kind of jelly. It's called gel. It's a gel out version anyway, and it like you're stuck to the saddle. Once you put this on, you're just stuck. And I think really they're meant to be used for people that have back issues or kind of issues sitting the canter, and I can completely see how it will be used for that, because like it does actually give you a lot of extra stability when you're trying to sit the canter. So if that's something you struggle with, you might want to look into them as well. But the main thing I use mine for is just that kind of extra grip for when Ruby's really sharp. Like I just ride it all the time because it's really comfy as well. It kind of protects your saddle too, because yeah, all the dirt ends up on the seat saver as opposed to your saddle. So yeah, that would be my next tip, is like to look into one of those, because it really, like, even I think maybe if it just gives you an extra 5 to 10% grip, that can be enough that you stay on and you manage to sit it. So yeah, I'd really recommend one of those. And to accompany that, maybe wear jods with the full seat, so that if anything does happen, it just gives you anything that gives you a bit of extra grip. The third thing I would recommend is to maybe try and get some lunge lessons. So again, this kind of comes back to building up an independent seat. So obviously with a lunge lesson, you're safe, you can take away your stirrups, take away your reins, and then that really gives you the opportunity to build up your core, build up your balance, build up your strength, and yeah, just basically work on an independent seat, which will help you when things go a bit pear-shaped out and about hacking, or in the arena, or in your dressage test, or when you're trying to show someone something really impressive and your horse decides to do a 180 on you. So yeah, like I would highly recommend lunge lessons. I just think you can't, any kind of no stirrup, bareback, anything like that, even riding in different saddles will all just kind of build up your strength, build up your balance, build up kind of your confidence with handling, with sitting sitting movements and build up your core, and just kind of will help you when it comes to those kind of hairy moments where you have to be quick and you kind of need your body to be kind of like operating on a kind of muscle memory mode, as opposed to you, because you just don't have the time to be like, I need to sit back and sit deep, and like you just won't when if they're fresh like that and they're going to spin, like you need your body to almost be operating on a kind of autopilot, which will happen if you kind of put in the work if you put the work into kind of building up an independent seat. And so my final tip is to work on, if your horse is quite spooky, quite reactive, is to set aside a day a week, or sometime every week or every day, to kind of work on their reactivity and kind of work on desensitizing them to spooky objects, getting them used to coming into contact with novel objects, and just and like you can do, there's a number of ways you can do this. So I might make a separate video on this and how I would approach it, but you can use positive reinforcement, you can use the natural horsemanship method, whatever you kind of decide works for you, or whatever you feel comfortable with is fine, but just be consistent and stick with the same method, and just make sure you're constantly working on it, because if you introduce your horse to new things every week, or they're constantly coming into contact with new things, and eventually they realise it's a positive thing, they will kind of switch to being less reactive and more curious, or at least maybe not even curious, but just not as reactive, and kind of a bit more confident that it's a new thing, but I've come into contact with new things before. Last week on the ground it was fine, you're there, you're doing the same kind of cues and reassuring them, and eventually that will build up and build their confidence. And it is important that like you can't just kind of not neglect that work and then go out and be surprised when they do spin and when they come across strange novel things and then they do spin and spook. If you don't put that work into kind of making them less reactive, nothing's going to change. So like if nothing changes, nothing changes. So so like obviously now, I mean, you can't desensitize against every single novel object there could be ever, but the hope is that if you put enough work into kind of coming into contact with new things, they will generalise a bit. Now horses aren't the best at generalising, but even if they generalise a little bit, it's better than nothing. So they're my tips for how to sit a spin, or how to kind of deal with your horse when they're being so reactive. And if you are coming off a lot, kind of what helped me, because I went through a really bad phase of it and it wasn't nice. I didn't enjoy riding during it, and like it is a hobby and it's an expensive hobby, so like you kind of want to be kind of enjoying yourself when you go down to the yard. So let me know if you've got any extra tips. I'm always interested in seeing and hearing new ways I can improve, and things that might make riding better and more enjoyable. And let me know if any of these tips have helped, and I'll chat to you in my next video. Bye!